where are you putting your sticks? Are you putting them in the pile of building yourself up or the pile of tearing yourself down? And by pile, I like to think of the analogy more as a fire. So say you're going through your day and someone starts giving you some attitude. They're being rude and they're raising their voice at you and they're being angry with you and it's for not a good reason and you're about to lose your temper. You want to give in to your temper and you want to, retaliate and get angry with them. In the moment like that, I believe you get a stick. And this stick can either go in the pile of losing your temper, losing your anger, or just, giving in to it and letting them control you and dictate your attitude. Or you can choose to not give in to your emotions, deal with the situation rationally, and not get angry. Because nothing has ever been made better, I believe, by anger. Marcus Aurelius tells us, he says, how much worse are the things anger and grief cause than the things that cause them? Think about how much worse anger makes a situation than the situation was prior to you being angry. Something might have changed and now the situation has gone downhill, but you getting angrier just sends that even more downhill. But you dealing with it with a good attitude and calm and collected, that brings it up. That takes it off a crash course and levels it out and then starts bringing it up. So you got to really look at where you're putting your sticks. And it's so much more than just things like that. It's when you're giving in to, greed or lust or envy, when you're putting sticks into the pile of something you don't want to do, you're building up that fire. When you put sticks on that fire, you're building it up. And the bigger that fire becomes and the hotter it becomes, the more strong your urges are to give into it. So if you get angry every time you feel the urge to get angry, that fire is huge. You've added so many sticks to that over time. It's a very ingrained habit. And you're very likely to give into it because the urge is so big. So when you want to make a change in your life and break a bad habit, you have to understand in the beginning, the fire over here with the right action and the fire over here with the wrong action. If you've been given into the wrong action, that fire over here is like this tall and it's hot. And the fire over here is, a spark. It's just a spark that could maybe catch something if it got enough fuel, if it got enough leaves and dry material and wood, it could just maybe get us some fire going. And once it gets a fire going, if you can just keep adding fuel to that, then it can become bigger. And as this becomes bigger, this is going to become smaller. And another thing I believe you have to realize is once you get the fire on this side smaller, it never truly goes out. There's always a little flame there. So you have to be careful when, you get an urge to act on that little flame because the urge is still never going to leave. But if you act upon it, that fire is going to start building again. And this fire is going to start shrinking. And you can, before you even know it, be back where you started. And this fire is barely alive and this fire is huge again. So you have to understand it's a daily battle. The battle is never over. Every day it restarts. And you need to add fuel to the good fires. You need to add fuel to the fires that are going to build you up, not tear you down, make you a better person. Give into moral excellence, not moral decrepancy. Give in to the good actions. And the more you do, the easier it's going to be. You're going to start getting pleasure from being a good person. And you're going to start getting pleasure from keeping your word and start getting pleasure from building up your fires that are good instead of bad. Because I know I heard a while ago that there's a little bit of, I think Andrew Huberman said, get a little bit of dopamine when you get angry. You get a little bit of dopamine when you get angry. So you have a dopamine circuit there that rekindles that experience. So you need to be mindful of this and actually try. You're not just going to, out of nowhere, not give in to anger. It's a constant cognitive battle that you have to be aware of. Or if you slip, you're just going to give into it. That's why every day is a battle. And you have to be ready for the battle every day. Or you're going to fall into your old habits. You're going to fall into that person you used to be. Because right when you think you've beat him, you've killed him, you've defeated that old person you were, that's when he comes back. Marcus Aurelius has a line that I really like, and he says, I'm going to butcher it, but it talks about how when you think you're in the weightiest business, that's when pride sinks its teeth in you. When you think what you're doing is so important, that's when pride comes in and you crumble. You think you're so smart, you're so blank, and that's when pride comes in and you get content and you start plummeting down again. So you have to not give in to pride and understand how hard it is, and understand that it's a daily battle. And you can be proud of the improvements you're making, but don't be so proud that you think, oh, there's no way I'm going to give into these actions anymore. And be careful too of criticizing the people who are giving into what you used to give into. Marcus Aurelius also says that. Think about, you're criticizing someone for thinking money's good, but just remember a time when you used to think money was good. They're not willingly deprived of the truth. They're just as you used to be. And if you can't help them see the truth, then that is your fault. And the Bible also talks about that in Matthew, where it talks about how taking the piece of wood out of your eye before you try and take it out of your brother's eye. And with how the same rule you measure against someone else is going to be measured back at you. So if you criticize someone for giving into a sin or a bad action or whatever it may be, but you yourself have your own faults, so you're going to get judged even harder for your own faults. You might have different faults than somebody, but you both have faults. So you shouldn't ask for forgiveness and understanding on your faults, but then not be graceful and forgiveful of other people's faults, because we all have faults. Marcus Aurelius talks about in Meditations, he says he's like, I'm a better wrestler. He liked wrestling, so he's like a better wrestler, but not a better forgiver of faults, which I think is very powerful and something we should all strive for, to be a better forgiver of faults, because we all have them. And depending on the day, you could be the one in the wrong, and you could be the one in need of forgiveness. So just remember that it could be your day, and just because it's not right now doesn't mean it won't be in the future. So be understanding of people who have faults, because you yourself have your own faults. So what sticks are you putting, or where are you putting your sticks actually? Are you putting them in the fire that's building you up or tearing you down? The one that's gonna bring your soul alive, or the one that's gonna kill your soul? Are you giving into fleshly desires or earthly, or same thing? Are you giving into fleshly and earthly desires, or are you listening to your soul and doing what your soul wants and what it should be doing, and making sure your soul's alive, not your flesh? You have to be in the world, but you don't have to be of this world. The Bible also tells us that, you're in this world, but you don't have to be of it. You can take pleasure in this life with virtue and excellence, moral excellence, not, sin and instant gratification and tearing people down. So take a look at where you're putting your sticks and make sure they're going in the pile that's going to build you up as a human being and not tear you down.